there's a quiet truth most people never notice. We've been taught from childhood that life only bends when we push hard enough, when we tighten our jaw, clench our fist, and demand the universe obey. Yet have you ever noticed that the tighter you grip, the faster things seem to slip away? The more you try to force reality into shape, the more stubborn it becomes, like trying to mold water between your fingers. We were conditioned to believe success belongs to those who fight the hardest, but in the deeper layers of the quantum field, creation doesn't respond to strain. It responds to alignment, like a radio searching through static. You don't hear the music by shouting at it. You hear it when you gently tune the dial, when you stop chasing the version of yourself you hope to become. Something softer begins to happen. You start to resonate with that version. The longing dissolves, and suddenly, you are no longer separate from what you desire. It rises gently from within you quietly, inevitably, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped trying to outrun yourself. Many people don't realize this because the world worships effort. But effort is only needed when you believe you are disconnected. The truth is stranger, simpler, more beautiful. You are entangled with the very reality you yearn for. The moment you release the tension in your mind and soften the corners of your heart, the field responds not to your words, but to your being. Think of it like a river. It doesn't struggle to move downstream. It doesn't negotiate with gravity. It simply allows, and the current carries it to where it was always meant to go. When you exhaust yourself trying to swim upstream, isn't that when you suffer the most? But when you surrender just a little, the flow carries you with a kind of grace you could never produce by force. In quantum physics, there's a principle called the observer effect. Everything exists as a wave of possibility. Until consciousness looks at it, your awareness collapses potential into form. Most people hear this and rush to visualize harder, affirm louder, build rituals like towers of control. But beneath their desire, fear vibrates quietly, trembling through the nervous system. The field listens, and like a perfect mirror, it reflects that trembling back. Some of you watching this tonight know exactly what that feels like. The late-night anxiety, the heavy breath, the tight chest, wanting life to change so badly, your body never relaxes long enough to receive it. You may be speaking the words of abundance, but the body whispers, "I'm afraid." It's that whisper the quantum hears. This is why manifestation doesn't belong to the loudest voice, but to the most coherent one. Coherence doesn't mean pretending to be happy. It doesn't mean crushing fear under the carpet or smiling through a storm. Coherence means becoming aware, noticing the storm, and choosing not to become it. The nervous system relaxes. The breath opens. Suddenly, the timeline you desire is close enough to touch. Not because reality changed, but because you did. You see, everything you want lives on a frequency, grounded in safety. Love, abundance, health, they bloom where there's softness. When your system feels hunted, the brain can only predict danger. It cannot imagine joy. Predictive processing, the mind's habit of recreating the past, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You live today through yesterday's wounds. That's why many people spend decades repeating the same patterns, the same relationships, the same bank balance, the same feeling of almost, not because life is unfair, but because the past is quietly steering the present. Until you breathe deep enough to interrupt the cycle, pause with me. Feel your body right now. Notice where you're gripping reality. Notice the invisible battles you still think you need to win. In that awareness, there is choice, and choice is creation. Some of you believe you're waiting for life, but life has been waiting for you to soften, to trust, to stop bargaining with the universe, as if goodness must be earned. When you believe you are unworthy, the field delays not to punish you. but to protect you from the collapse of receiving something you cannot yet hold. That delay is love in disguise. When you finally shift from, "I need to," "I already am," you radiate differently. Have you ever noticed someone who glows without reason? They're not chasing anything. They are allowing. They don't grip the steering wheel of life until their knuckles turn white. They breathe. They walk. They trust. And reality organizes itself around them, quietly and elegantly. This is what it means to become the frequency. Reality is not clay to be beaten and shaped. It is a mirror, a gentle one. If you stand in front of it with clenched fists, it reflects clenched fists. If you soften, the mirror softens too. Some of you have spent years trying to speak your dreams into existence from a place of lack. But the quantum doesn't take commands. It measures coherence. It listens to the heart, not the mouth. If your heart beats with scarcity, you could whisper abundance forever, and nothing would move. But the moment you feel abundance before the evidence, before the numbers, before the applause, reality shifts to match the vibration. This is why the simple acts, done, daily, matter so deeply. Placing a hand on your chest when fear rises, breathing slowly while the world rushes, remembering your future instead of begging for it. These are not small things. They are the training wheels of coherence. And let's talk about community. We mirror the nervous systems around us. This is why you feel safe with some people and drained by others. It's not personal. It's energetic hygiene. Curate your field. Protect your frequency. Be near those who remember the version of you that you sometimes forget. And when emotions come like storms, grief, anger, doubt, don't exile them. Emotion is simply energy in motion. If you allow it to pass through without identity, it will leave clarity behind. When you resist, you build a prison wall by wall, convinced it's protection. The universe doesn't want you to be perfect. It wants you to be aware, because awareness creates choice, and choice shapes timelines. When you wake tomorrow, before you reach for your phone, ask yourself quietly, what frequency am I selecting today? Scarcity or sufficiency? Fear or trust? Forcing or allowing? Throughout the day, your body will whisper when you fall out of alignment. A tight jaw, a shallow breath, a closed chest. In that moment, you don't have to fix the world. You only need to soften your own edges. One breath can collapse an entire timeline of fear. At night, instead of critiquing your day, remember the version of yourself who already lives the life you desire. Feel what they feel. Taste the air they breathe. Let your nervous system learn the melody of that future until it hums beneath your skin. Then, something remarkable happens. You stop fighting the old timeline, and the old timeline, starved of attention, dissolves quietly like fog in sunlight. You were never meant to wrestle life into shape. You were meant to align with the shape that already fits. When you choose trust over tension, surrender over force, embodiment over performance, reality reorganizes in ways your logic could never predict. And one day, without fireworks or fanfare, you'll wake up and realize you are no longer chasing. Your life has caught up to you, not because you ran faster, but because you finally stopped running at all. Everything you desire has always been moving toward you. It only needed space to land. 1. Predictive processing. When the brain recreates the past, there's a quiet mechanism operating inside your mind. 1. Subtle enough that most people never notice it. Neuroscientists call it predictive processing, but you felt it every time an old fear whispers beneath a new beginning. Every time you hesitate to trust happiness because you remember how it once slipped through your fingers. The brain builds maps from yesterday, then uses those maps to navigate tomorrow. And if you've walked through seasons of lack, disappointment, or abandonment, those maps become cautious, narrow, and painfully familiar. The truth is simple. But it stings we don't see reality as it is. We see it as our nervous system has learned to expect, like a painter who only owns dark pigments. The brain keeps reaching for the same old colors. It predicts loss, so it braces. It predicts rejection, so it hides. It predicts scarcity, so it clings. And without even noticing, we begin replaying the same storylines in different costumes. You wake up in a new relationship, but carry the tension from the last one. You step into a new opportunity, but your shoulders hold the posture of defeat. Even when abundance knocks, the mind trembles quietly, searching for the trap. It's not weakness, it's wiring. And wiring can be rewritten, but only if you're willing to see the loops for what they are. Survival strategies born from old pain. When predictive processing runs unchecked, it becomes a silent puppeteer. It tells you what to expect, then filters out any evidence that contradicts that expectation. If you believe life will disappoint you, you stop noticing the hands extended to help. If you believe love can't stay, you misinterpret kindness as temporary. This isn't intuition. This is the past echoing so loudly that the future becomes an echo chamber. But here's something few people are ever told: predictive processing isn't the enemy. It's protection, a loyal guard dog that learned to bark at every shadow. The question is not how to silence it, but how to teach it new shapes of safety. To do that, you must first become aware of your patterns. Notice what happens in your body when good things approach. Do your shoulders tense? Does your breath shorten? Does your mind immediately search for what might go wrong? Those are past predictions trying to steer the wheel. Imagine a child clutching your sleeve, whispering, "Last time we got hurt. Please don't let it happen again." That's all predictive processing really is. Not sabotage fear wearing old clothes. And yet, the quantum field doesn't care about your logic. It listens to your frequency. If your nervous system is expecting darkness, vibration collapses the wave toward experiences that match. Not because the universe is cruel, but because coherence always wins. The outside mirrors the inside. Healing this begins slowly, gently, not by arguing with your fear, but by becoming present enough to witness it. When an old belief rises, don't push it away. Place a hand on your chest. Breathe deeply, and say not out loud, but inwardly, "I see you. You learned this to protect me." But it's safe to rewrite. You are not trying to erase the past. You're teaching your brain to stop predicting it. This process feels uncomfortable at first. Think of a river changing direction. The water pushes against new earth, carving fresh pathways, while the old route still whispers of familiarity. The brain is the same way. It loves familiarity, even when that familiarity hurts. That's why the first sign of growth isn't joy. It's discomfort. Not because you're failing, but because you're finally leaving the predictable. There's a quiet moment that arrives after enough practice. It doesn't shout. It doesn't glow. It simply feels like this: I don't need to brace anymore. That moment is sacred. It means the predictive model has updated. The nervous system has learned a new song. From here, manifestation stops feeling like swimming upstream. It becomes a gentle, steady drift toward possibility. Because in the quantum field, potential doesn't collapse toward effort. It collapses toward expectation. When expectation is shaped by fear, you manifest crumbs. When expectation is shaped by safety, you manifest banquet table. But let's not romanticize this. Reconditioning takes time. The brain prefers efficiency over accuracy. It's easier for it to recycle old predictions than build new ones. So be patient. Every time you choose presence over panic, curiosity over conclusion, something rewires quietly. Think of a garden after winter. The soil is stiff, but beneath the frost, roots remember warmth. When sunlight returns, they stretch, not because they're trying, but because warmth gives permission. That's what nervous system safety does. It gives your potential permission in your everyday life. This looks like small shifts. Saying yes when the old story screams no. Letting someone love you without looking for the exit. Trusting your gifts long enough to see them land. These tiny acts are quantum updates. They whisper to the brain, "The world has changed, and I survived it." Soon, predictive processing begins to anticipate not just threat, but possibility. Abundance feels less foreign. Synchronicity becomes common. The nervous system stops scanning for danger and starts scanning for alignment. That's when manifestation accelerates, not because you did more, but because you finally stopped distorting the signal. And I want you to hear this softly. You're not behind. You're not late. You're not broken for repeating patterns. You were surviving with the tools you had. Now you have new ones. Some nights, your chest will still tighten. Old maps don't disappear overnight. But when they rise, breathe, feel, and stay. Staying is how you build new futures. Because predictive processing doesn't care about your goals. It cares about your state. And when your state becomes peaceful, reality shifts as a side effect. You are not meant to spend your life bracing. You're meant to feel the weight, leave your shoulders, to breathe fully, to trust gently. The brain will learn from every breath. And one day, without ceremony, you'll fall asleep without scanning for danger and awaken into a timeline the past could never have predicted. Healing is not dramatic. It's quiet, like snow melting from a roof. You don't notice it at first. Then suddenly, everything is green. Life becomes warm again. And from that warmth, the future blooms. 2. Heart-brain coherence. When feeling and thought finally agree. There's a moment in every spiritual journey when you realize thinking alone isn't enough. The mind can imagine abundance, whisper affirmations, repeat mantras in the dark. Yet if the heart clenches with fear, nothing changes. That gap between thought and feeling is where most dreams drown quietly. But when the heart and mind begin to speak the same language, something extraordinary happens. It's subtle at first. Your breath becomes softer. Your chest feels less armored. The mind stops arguing with itself. And the body stops resisting. In that harmony, a new signal is born, steady, clear, and undeniable. That signal is what the quantum field responds to. Science has shown that the electromagnetic field of the heart is far stronger than the one produced by the brain. But you don't need a laboratory to feel this. Think of a moment when someone walked into the room and you sensed their sadness before they spoke, or a moment when you felt safe with a human being without knowing why. That was their heart field whispering to yours. When the heart and mind sync, you become a lighthouse instead of a flickering candle. Yet many of us are taught to ignore the heart. We are raised to favor logic, precision, control. We weigh every decision, analyze every outcome, and then wonder why life feels mechanical. The heart is messy, unpredictable, and alive. But that is exactly why it's powerful. It isn't built on past predictions, it's built on presence. Think of the heart as the conductor of an orchestra. The brain is brilliant. But without the heart's rhythm, all you hear is sound without melody. And life without melody is just survival. When coherence is lacking, the nervous system becomes scattered. You think one thing, feel another, and act from a third. The quantum field hears that noise and sends back a reflection of confusion. You ask for abundance while feeling unworthy. You declare confidence while bracing for failure. You whisper desire with a clenched jaw. It's not cruelty that blocks manifestation, it's incoherence. To understand coherence, place your hand over your chest for a moment. Close your eyes. Notice how your mind wanders forward and backward. Notice how the heart simply beats here. Now, the mind lives in time. The heart lives in presence. Coherence is bringing the two home to the same room. Most people misunderstand the heart. They think it's fragile, emotional, easily wounded. But the heart is the organ that forms first in the womb. It begins to beat before the brain fully develops. It is the first leader of your experience, the original rhythm you came into the world dancing to. When the heart is ignored, the body tightens, anxiety rises, breath shallows, reality bends into shapes of fear. But when the heart is heard, the entire system exhales like a tired child finally allowed to rest. This is why emotional honesty matters. Not toxic positivity, not painting over fear with glittering words. Coherence begins with truth. I feel scared. I feel small. I feel uncertain. When these admissions are allowed to surface, the heart softens. The mind no longer needs to shout to be heard. And once softness settles, clarity enters like morning light through an open curtain. People often ask how to create coherence. They expect a complex ritual, but the heart does not speak complexity. It speaks simplicity. Place attention on your breath. Slow down. Feel gratitude for something tiny, like the warmth of sunlight on your skin or the weight of your feet on the ground. When gratitude rises from the heart rather than the head, the electromagnetic field expands like a blooming flower. The quantum responds. Imagine you are tuning a guitar. If the strings are loose, the sound is flat. If they're pulled too tight, the sound is sharp and painful. Coherence is that perfect point in the middle, where vibration sings. When the heart and mind vibrate in the same key, reality organizes itself like iron filings around a magnet. This is why you may have noticed that things fall into place more easily on days when you're calm. The parking space appears. The phone call arrives. The opportunity unfolds. It's not coincidence. It's alignment. On the other hand, when your heart is anxious and your mind frantic, even simple tasks become tangled. The world mirrors your inner storm, not as punishment, but as feedback. Sometimes, coherence begins with forgiveness. Not the dramatic kind, just the quiet release of old tension. The heart cannot synchronize with the mind if it's still dragging a chain of old hurts. Forgiveness doesn't tell the past it was okay. It simply says, I will not carry you into tomorrow. When the heart forgives, the mind stops predicting pain. From there, something almost mystical opens: intuitive intelligence. Decisions that would have taken weeks of mental debate emerge effortlessly. You just know, not because of logic alone, but because the heart filters possibilities with a clarity the mind cannot access on its own. Intuition is the voice of coherence. When you live in coherence long enough, you begin to notice synchronicities, little winks from the universe. A conversation overheard at the perfect moment, a stranger whose words confirm your silent worry, a job posting that feels like an answer. These are breadcrumbs along the path your heart already knew existed. As coherence deepens, the field responds faster, not because you yell louder, but because your signal stops wobbling. Doubt creates static. Faith creates resonance. But faith isn't blind belief. It's embodied safety. When the body feels safe, the field snaps into focus like a lens finally adjusted. Some days, you will fall out of coherence. Old wounds will pull you off center. That's okay. Coherence is not perfection. It's returning. Returning to breath. Returning to presence. Returning to the simple truth that you are not separate from the intelligence that grows forests and spins galaxies. The heart knows this. It feels the whisper of belonging in every beat. When heart and mind disagree, you feel split. When they agree, you feel whole. And wholeness is magnetic. People are drawn to it. Opportunities converge around it. Your life becomes less like a battle and more like a dance. This is how timelines shift, not with force, but with harmony. So the next time you're lost in thought, pause it, place a hand over your heart. Ask gently, are you with me? Wait for the subtle melt in your chest. the sigh you didn't know you were holding. In that moment, coherence begins. And from coherence, creation flows, not because you demanded it, but because you allowed it. 3. Monitoring trap. When constant checking becomes a cage, there's a quiet tension humming beneath the surface of so many people's lives. It doesn't shout. It doesn't break things. It just whispers the same uneasy question over and over. Has it happened yet? This seemingly harmless question becomes a loop, tightening around the nervous system like a fist. We check our bank account again, our phone again, the scale, the mirror, the messages again. We search for proof the way a thirsty traveler searches the horizon for water. And in doing so, we accidentally send the universe an unintended message. Every check says, I don't trust that it's coming. Every refresh says, I'm afraid it won't arrive. Every anxious glance says, I'm not safe unless I control this. That is the monitoring trap. You might not realize it, but the act of checking is often rooted in fear, not curiosity. It's the nervous system scanning for potential loss. It's the mind replaying old disappointments. And in quantum terms, that fear becomes a frequency, a signal broadcast into the field. The field responds not to your affirmations, but to the tension behind your breath. Think of it like planting a seed. Imagine digging it up every morning to see if it sprouted. You'd disrupt its growth. You'd stress the soil. Eventually, nothing would bloom. Manifestation works the same way. What you plant in trust grows. What you monitor in panic decays. People fall into this trap because waiting feels vulnerable. When you've been hurt before, uncertainty becomes terrifying. The need to monitor is the nervous system's attempt to avoid surprise. But here's the paradox. Everything you're seeking blooms in unmonitored space. Life can't breathe when you're holding your hand over its mouth. There's something tender about recognizing this in ourselves. It's not weakness, it's self-protection. Many of us learned that if we weren't vigilant, something would be taken. So we trained our bodies to watch, to tighten, to anticipate loss. But constant vigilance is not manifestation, it's survival. Survival is loud, tight, urgent. Creation is quiet, spacious, unforced. When you check constantly, you step out of the present and into the future, searching for evidence that would allow you to relax. But safety doesn't come from evidence. Safety creates evidence. It's like watching water boil. You stand there, staring, waiting. The more you watch, the slower it feels. You tap your foot. You sigh. You question if the stove is even on. But the moment you walk away, without fanfare, the water begins to bubble. Existence responds to absence, not pressure. That is the strange elegance of the quantum field. The monitoring trap distorts your energetic signature. It introduces static little flashes of doubt, fear, impatience, and static disrupts coherence. It's like trying to tune into a radio station while someone keeps jiggling the antenna. The music fades, then crackles, then disappears entirely. The signal was always there. You simply didn't trust long enough to hear it clearly. And so, you keep adjusting. Adjusting becomes obsession. Obsession becomes anxiety. And anxiety becomes the frequency your body broadcasts. You are no longer embodying the timeline of having. You are surviving in the timeline of needing. We don't talk about this enough. But impatience is often grief in disguise. Grief that someday, once again, nothing will change. The monitoring trap is the nervous system pleading, prove to me this time will be different. But here's the deeper truth. The universe doesn't prove things to you first. It meets you once your inner proof is embodied. And waiting is where most people abandon themselves. They check, they tighten, and eventually, they quit the timeline, moments before reality bends. If you truly believed your manifestation was inevitable, you would not be checking for it every hour. You would be preparing for it, making space, softening your body, strengthening your boundaries, treating yourself with the dignity of someone who is already chosen. When you constantly monitor, you stop living. Your life becomes a corridor between absence and expectation. Days blur, breath shortens, presence evaporates. But the universe does not deliver gifts into clenched fists. There is tremendous power in dropping the need to monitor. It's like exhaling after holding your breath for years. Suddenly, colors are brighter, food tastes better. Sunlight warms places you forgot existed. Joy returns, not because the manifestation arrived, but because you stopped suffocating the moment you're living in. Some people misinterpret surrender as resignation, but true surrender isn't giving up. It's giving over. It's stepping back far enough for the field to do what it has been preparing all along. It's trusting the invisible scaffolding that's been building behind the scenes. Surrender is not passive. It's receptive. When you stop checking, you return to the body. You return to the breath. You return to the subtle pulse of life that has always been enough long before the achievement, the money, the relationship, the recognition. You begin to understand that the miracle was never the manifestation. It was the person you became while waiting. And yes, sometimes you will fall back into the trap. You will refresh the page, check the message, touch the soil of your seedlings. When that happens, don't shame yourself. Notice, smile gently, place a hand over your heart and whisper, "Old fear, new moment." Then return. Return to the present. Return to trust. Return to being rather than searching. There's a quiet courage in letting go of the outcome. It feels like stepping off a ledge at first, but that's only because you've never relied on your wings. The universe doesn't test you to see if you're worthy. It waits to see if you're ready to receive without clenching. And eventually, there comes a day when you forget to check, not because you gave up on the dream, but because you began living as if it had already arrived. You laugh, you rest, you breathe without bargaining. And in that space, without warning, the phone rings. The email arrives. The door opens. Not as reward, as reflection, because the quantum field does not respond to effort. It responds to coherence. And coherence is impossible inside the monitoring trap. So if you find yourself checking again and again, ask gently, what part of me does not feel safe yet? Then tend to that part. Hold it. Breathe with it. Teach it a new story. And when trust feels too big, start with something smaller. Allow the moment you're in to be enough for now. Let the heart soften. Let the nervous system settle. Let the outcome breathe. Life does not ignore those who stop checking. It finally has space to find them. In the end, manifestation isn't about waiting for proof. It's about becoming your own proof. 4. Becoming the frequency. When who you are matters more than what you want. There's a subtle misunderstanding woven quietly through most attempts at manifestation. People believe they attract what they want, as if desire alone is enough to bend the architecture of reality. But in the quantum field, wanting is not the signal. Wanting is the echo of absence. You don't draw toward you what you crave. You draw toward you what you embody. Reality doesn't answer to your wishes. It mirrors your state of being. You become, in every breath, a transmission station. Thoughts are important, yes, but thoughts without embodiment are static sparks, flickering without heat. The quantum field listens not to your words, but to the resonance beneath them, the quality of your breath, the tone of your nervous system, the posture of your heart. These create the electromagnetic footprint that shapes your timeline. It can feel unfair at first. You long for love. Yet, loneliness returns like an unwelcome guest. You desire abundance. Yet scarcity shadows your steps. But the field isn't punishing you. It's reflecting who you have learned to be. If you breathe scarcity through every inhale and tense with fear on every exhale, the field receives that fear as the dominant frequency. So the real question becomes, who are you right now? Not in your mind's story, not in your hopes, but in the quiet spaces of your body. Are you someone expecting disappointment? Are you someone bracing for abandonment? Are you someone waiting for permission to feel worthy? Frequency is built in those places. Think of a tuning fork. It doesn't attract other forks by wishing. It vibrates, and anything resonating at the same tone begins to hum. Objects across the room tremble in sympathy. That trembling is coherence. In life, the vibration you carry invites people, experiences, resources, and timelines that match its pitch. Many never realize this because they try to change their life while remaining the same emotional shape. They change cities, partners, jobs. They rearrange the furniture of their external world while keeping the old architecture of their internal one. And then, quietly, the same lessons return, because they never became someone different. You are not manifesting things. You're manifesting versions of yourself. When you embody peace, you attract experiences that harmonize with peace. When you embody worthiness, you stop chasing proof. When you embody love, you no longer negotiate for scraps of attention. The world reorganizes around you, not because you commanded it, but because you became a different gravitational center. Becoming the frequency is less about adding and more about shedding. You shed the defensive contraction in the chest. You shed the self-doubt vibrating beneath every choice. You shed the subtle belief that you must earn joy. As these layers fall away, your signal becomes clearer like a lighthouse cutting through fog. At first, this shedding is uncomfortable. The ego resists. The nervous system protests. The past whispers warnings like a mother gripping her child's hand too tightly. But courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to breathe through fear without letting it shape your identity. To become the frequency of love, you must feel love now, not someday, not when evidence arrives, not when someone else hands it to you. You nurture it like a flame cupped gently between your palms. You speak softer to yourself. You rest without guilt. You notice small beauties, the warmth of tea, the kindness in a stranger's eyes, sunlight falling on an old chair. These small acts are not decoration. They are frequency. People often ask, how do I become abundance when my bank account is empty? You start by treating yourself with dignity. You honor your time. You practice generosity with your attention, your compliments, your compassion. You stop apologizing for wanting more. Money is only one expression of abundance. Abundance begins as a feeling of, I am allowed to take up space. Others ask, how do I become love when I feel alone? You start by opening the closed doors within you. You let affection land. You soften your tone with yourself. You drop the armor, piece by painful piece. Love is not something you get. It's something your nervous system learns to feel safe holding that. And yes, sometimes the world will test this. Old timelines will tempt you back. But those moments are mirrors, not punishments. Mirrors ask, are you still becoming the same frequency? Or will you choose the old vibration disguised as comfort? Becoming the frequency means living from the future version of yourself before the evidence arrives. It's inconvenient. It's vulnerable. It's quiet work. But nothing shifts until you embody the shift. It's like walking into a room where the music is already playing. If you stand stiff in the corner waiting for permission, you will feel awkward, separate. But if you let your body sway, even before the beat feels familiar, you eventually become part of the rhythm. This is why trying harder does not create change. Trying is effort. Effort is strain. Strain is a frequency of lack. Allowing is alignment. Alignment is ease. Ease is magnetic. When you become the frequency, you speak, Move, breathe, and choose as the version of yourself who already has what you seek, not as performance. Performance is desperation wearing makeup, but as embodiment, you stop negotiating with fear. You stop discounting your worth. You begin acting from fullness rather than hunger. Slowly, reality begins to tilt. Friends may shift. Opportunities may appear. Doors once shut may creak open. Not because you forced them, but because you are vibrating at a new threshold. Old vibrations cannot hold you anymore. They fall away like leaves releasing their branches in autumn. There is sadness in this shedding, but also relief. Your new frequency cannot carry dead weight. You may ask, how will I know I've become the frequency? You'll stop anxiously checking. You'll stop rehearsing conversations. You'll stop bargaining in your head. You'll simply know. And that knowing is not intellectual, it's cellular. The nervous system relaxes. The breath deepens. The chest softens. You dwell in the present like a guest finally welcomed home. From this state, manifestation feels less like magic and more like arrival. Becoming the frequency changes how you walk into a room. You no longer scan to see who accepts you. You bring your acceptance with you. It changes how you love. You're no longer fishing for validation. You offer affection without fear. It changes how you dream. You no longer ask permission. You simply grow. And here's the quiet truth no one wants to hear. You must become the vibrational adult your wounds needed when they were small. That's the work. Not affirmations, not rituals. Identity. When you change identity, reality bends. Not slowly, not painfully, naturally, because you are no longer trying to attract a life you don't believe you deserve. You are inhabiting a life you already know is yours. And the quantum field finally has a clear signal to echo. So ask yourself, not with desperation, but with honesty, who am I being today? Do my thoughts and emotions match the timeline I crave? Or am I vibrating the past with every breath? Your life is not waiting for more effort. It's waiting for a new frequency. And becoming that frequency is less about pushing and more about remembering. The highest version of you is not a fantasy. It's a dormant vibration, waiting for safety, presence, and breath. When you become that vibration, even for a moment, the universe recognizes you. It says quietly, there you are. I've been waiting. 5. Community. The frequency of the space around you. There's a truth that reveals itself quietly as we grow older. No matter how strong your inner work becomes, you are never vibrating alone. Your nervous system listens not only to your thoughts, but to the emotional currents of the people surrounding you, whether you realize it or not. Community is not just social connection. It is a field of frequency, and your body, like a tuning fork, synchronizes with whatever field it stands inside of. Think about how you felt walking into different rooms in your life. Some rooms feel heavy, as if the air thickens around your lungs. Conversation is forced. Laughter is sharp, and every part of you scans for subtle threats. Other rooms feel effortless. You breathe deeper without trying. Your shoulders drop. Your heart softens. Presence becomes natural. Nothing has changed externally. But your body knows. That knowing is frequency recognition. Humans are profoundly social, not just psychologically, but physiologically. We co-regulate. Our nervous systems adjust to the collective. And when you spend time in environments saturated with fear, gossip, bitterness, or chronic stress, your body begins rehearsing those states without your conscious permission. Over time, you start carrying that emotional static home, like invisible dust on your skin. Conversely, when you stand among those who are calm, grounded, internally spacious, you expand. Your breath deepens. Your posture opens. You become more yourself, not less. It's like the difference between a crowded, overheated room and a window opening with cool, fresh air. The shift is subtle, but your whole inner landscape rearranges toward ease. This is why community is not optional in transformation. You can meditate alone, journal alone, breathe alone, but at some point, you must step into a field that reflects who you are becoming, not who you were. If you stay inside, environments built from fear, your nervous system will interpret growth as danger. You may begin to shrink, not because you lack strength, but because you lack resonance. The people around you act like mirrors. When you stand in front of mirrors that reflect only your limitations, you begin to believe you are small. But when you stand in front of mirrors that reflect your expansion, you remember, you were never meant to fold yourself into tiny shapes just to fit someone else's comfort. Every community vibrates at a specific frequency. Some operate through scarcity. Conversations revolve around what's lacking, what's failing, who wronged who. Some operate through anxiety, urgency in every voice, panic behind every plan. Others operate through comparison, measuring worth by external metrics. These environments infect the nervous system slowly, like a faint hum you only notice once you step into silence. Being in the wrong community can convince you that your growth is arrogance, your boundaries are selfishness, and your intuition is irrational. You find yourself shrinking your light just enough not to disturb the room, but healing demands that you disturb the room. One of the greatest acts of self-love is walking away from spaces that require you to betray yourself in order to belong. When you do, it may feel like loss at first, a pulling away from familiar gravitational fields. But loneliness born from integrity is softer than belonging born from self-abandonment. The right community doesn't tether you, it lifts you. When you speak about your dreams, the room doesn't roll its eyes or hand you sensible excuses. The room leans in. It listens with curiosity. It asks, what would it look like if you trusted yourself more deeply? Your nervous system receives that question like nourishment. In those spaces, growth is not competition, it's inspiration. Success is not threat, it's proof. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's communion. Quantum physics calls this phenomenon entrainment, the process by which weaker or unstable frequencies synchronize with stronger, coherent ones. It happens with metronomes placed on the same plane. It happens with fireflies blinking in darkness. And it happens with people sitting together in presence. One calm nervous system can gently recalibrate an entire group. You may have noticed this with someone in your life. Their presence alone slows your breath. That is coherence. And coherence is contagious. Given enough time in aligned environments, your old frequency begins to melt. The body no longer grips. Fear no longer drives. Doubt loses its gravity. You become capable of holding expansion without collapsing inward. Healing that would have taken years alone unfolds softly in months. The wrong community does the opposite. It pulls you back into timelines you outgrew. It reactivates patterns of self-doubt. It whispers familiar stories. Don't be too much. Don't risk the unknown. Don't trust joy. But you were not born for containment. You were born for resonance. There's a painful truth hidden in this. Some people benefit from you staying small. Your growth threatens the agreements you once unconsciously made with them. When you rise, the old contract breaks. They may not celebrate. They may withdraw. They may criticize. But remember, their discomfort is not evidence. You are wrong. It is evidence. You are changing. You cannot become the next version of yourself while clinging to the approval of the old environment. Choosing community is choosing frequency, and frequency determines timeline. When you stand among those who are living from trust rather than fear, your nervous system learns that safety is possible. When you witness joy without conditions, you learn that joy is not dangerous. When you see someone speak boundaries gently, you learn that boundaries are acts of love, not walls. Your biology rewires through observation. This is why ancient traditions gathered in circles. They understood that transformation accelerates in groups not because of doctrine, but because nervous systems synchronize. In a group of the right frequency, something miraculous happens. Your survival patterns relax enough for your soul to speak. Ideas bloom that would never emerge in isolation. You remember parts of yourself you buried. You laugh in a tone you forgot existed. Your eyes shine differently. The right community doesn't give you answers. It reminds you of answers you already carry. And when people ask, "But what if I don't have this community yet?" I tell them gently, become the frequency first. The field will reorganize around you. Old relationships will dissolve. New ones will appear. Synchronicity will introduce you to the rooms you're ready for. But you must be willing to stand alone in the hallway for a season. The hallway is not abandonment. It is recalibration. During that time, you will feel the ache of absence. It's a sign your nervous system is detoxing from frequencies that no longer match. Don't fill that ache with old patterns. Let the emptiness teach you what you once tolerated. Let it sharpen your discernment. For when the new community arrives, and it will, you will feel it in your chest before your mind can explain it. Your body will exhale. Conversation will feel like resting. Silence will be comfortable. Growth will not require contortion. And slowly, without forcing, you will expand into someone you always suspected you could be. The right community is not a luxury. It is a tuning chamber, a frequency amplifier, a sanctuary for evolution. Choose wisely, because when you surround yourself with those who remember what you are becoming, you stop forgetting. And when you stop forgetting, life stops fighting you. It begins to move with you, like water, like breath, like a song that was always meant to be sung in harmony, not alone. 6. The 3 layers of energy, where reality truly listens. There's a pattern in human experience that few ever pause long enough to notice. We assume that what we consciously think is the message the universe receives. We repeat affirmations, visualize outcomes, speak our intentions into mirrors and morning routines, yet life doesn't shift the way the mind expects. People say, "But I thought positive thoughts," and quietly despair when nothing changes. That disappointment often becomes self-blame, but the truth is more layered, more compassionate, more intricate. Your energy isn't made of only what you think. It moves through 3 distinct layers: thought, emotion, and cellular memory. And the quantum field doesn't respond equally to all of them. It listens most deeply to the one you barely notice: your subconscious. Bodily imprint. On the surface level, there are your thoughts. These are the stories you tell yourself, the plans you make, the mental images you hold. Thoughts are agile. They can change in seconds. They are also easily influenced by mood, weather, sleep, and social pressure. Thoughts are like the waves on the surface of an ocean, visible, quick to change direction, often restless. But beneath thought lives another layer: emotion. Emotions are slower, heavier, older. They don't obey logic. You can think, "I am safe," while your chest tightens with fear. You can think, "I am worthy," while your stomach twists with shame. When thoughts and emotions disagree, the quantum field hears the emotion. Imagine telling a child, "Everything is fine," but gripping their hand with panic. They will feel the panic, not the words. The universe works the same way. Deeper still, beneath emotion, rests the most ancient layer of all: cellular memory. This isn't dramatic or mystical. Cells hold patterns. They remember the body's history. Trauma leaves chemical fingerprints. Long-term stress shapes posture and breathing. Childhood wounds imprint on the nervous system. These imprints repeat habits silently. They're like old songs stuck on repeat beneath consciousness. And here's the subtle truth: the quantum responds most faithfully to the deepest, most consistent layer: cellular frequency. It listens to the story your cells whisper while your mind shouts over them. You can say, "I am abundant," But if the cells still contract at the thought of spending money, the field reads contraction as scarcity. You can declare, "Love finds me." But if your nervous system tenses in intimacy, the field reads tension as avoidance. And you can tell yourself, "My life is changing," while your body rehearses the movements of fear. We are not punished for this. We are mirrored. Think of an actor trying to play confidence, while their body language betrays insecurity. Shoulders hunched, voice shallow, eyes darting. The performance falls flat, not because they didn't try, but because the body didn't believe. Manifestation works similarly. The universe doesn't respond to performance. It responds to embodiment. Many spiritual seekers get stuck because they try to rewrite only the top layer thought. They repeat mantras like bandages on deeper wounds. They visualize futures on top of unresolved fear. They speak abundance while their breathing quietly says, "I'm drowning." Eventually, exhaustion sets in. They say, "It must not be real." But the failure wasn't the principle, just the approach. To shift reality, all three layers must come into alignment. Thought asks the question. Emotion opens the door. Cellular memory decides whether you walk through or freeze. Picture a house built on 3 floors. The mind lives on the top floor, giving speeches from the balcony. The emotions live on the 2nd floor, managing relationships and moods. And deep in the basement, cellular memory stores, boxes full of forgotten experiences, unlabeled and dusty. When the basement floods, the entire house shakes, no matter how clean the upper rooms look. Healing means going downstairs. For many, this descent feels like darkness at first. Old feelings rise. Tears come without warning. Anger, shame, grief, even numbness surface. But this is not regression. It is excavation. You cannot remodel a house by repainting the roof. You must clear the foundation. And when deep layers shift, reality shifts quietly with them. You might notice you no longer panic in the situations that once triggered you. You breathe differently. You sleep more deeply. You speak more clearly. Relationships soften. Opportunities approach. People treat you like someone who expects good things. Not because you force them to, but because the broadcast changed. If you've ever felt trapped in repeating cycles despite your best intentions, this is why the deepest layer always wins. Cellular memory runs over 90% of human behavior. Thoughts may dream of freedom, but the cells flinch in fear, and fear becomes the broadcast. But cellular memory is not cement. It is clay. It can be reshaped through presence, breath work, therapy, safe relationships, somatic practice, loving attention. Every time you remain present during discomfort without fleeing or numbing, you rewrite cellular code. The nervous system learns, this moment is safe, and safety is the root of expansion. This is why healing often looks like slowing down instead of pushing harder. The body cannot update while bracing. It can only update while softening. And softening is not weakness. It is the surrender of armor, once used for survival. Armor becomes prison when the war is over. Now, imagine what happens when all 3 layers align. Thought whispers, "I am worthy." Emotion feels warmth and openness. Cellular memory remains steady, relaxed. Suddenly, the quantum field reflects that coherence instantly. Synchronicities appear, doors open, life flows, not because the universe finally noticed you, but because you finally broadcast one consistent frequency. This is the secret behind effortless manifestation. Not effortlessness in action, but effortlessness in coherence. It feels like standing in a river, letting the current carry you instead of thrashing against it. Life becomes easier, not because challenges disappear, but because you stop collapsing into old survival shapes. People often ask, how do I know I'm shifting at the cellular level? You'll notice The same triggers feel softer. Decisions feel calmer. The body stays open rather than tightening. Silence becomes comfortable. You stop rehearsing old tragedies. You exhale more than you hold your breath. These are not small things. They are the signs of a nervous system learning new futures. And here's something else: when deep layers shift, the mind no longer needs to cheerlead. Affirmations become quiet truths rather than loud reminders. You feel abundance before you see it. You feel love before you meet it. You feel capability before proof arrives. That feeling is the seed. The field responds to seeds, not scripts. So be gentle with yourself. This work is not instant. The body has its own seasons. But every tremor of awareness, every moment, you stay present instead of fleeing. Every breath you take in softness, rather than panic, rewires the basement of your being. Reality listens more to who you are than who you think you are. And when the deepest layers change, your life cannot help but follow. Like a tide rising quietly in the night, you wake to a shoreline changed not because you forced it, but because you aligned with something ancient inside you. The universe hears that alignment before any affirmation you could ever speak. 7. Future memory. Remembering the life you have not yet lived. There's a quiet doorway in the mind that very few people ever learn to open. It doesn't lead backward into what has already happened, but forward into what longs to happen. We usually think memory belongs solely to the past snapshots of childhood, echoes of heartbreak, lessons carved into bone. But the brain is far more mysterious than we were ever taught. It is not just a recording device. It is a prediction machine. And if you know how to speak its language, you can teach it to remember a future that has not yet arrived. This isn't fantasy, and it isn't denial. It's biology. Neuroscience tells us that the brain doesn't distinguish strongly between something vividly imagined and something physically experienced. The same neural pathways light up. The same chemicals flood the body. The same emotional signatures leave footprints in your cells. When you repeatedly imagine a future not as a wish, but as a memory, your nervous system begins to believe it has already walked that path. And the body, with quiet determination, adjusts its behavior to match. Imagine this like walking through an unfamiliar forest. On the first trip, branches snag at your clothes, and you stumble through uneven paths. But if you walk that trail again and again, the ground smooths underfoot. Grass part. The trail forms. Future memory is the act of walking the neural trail of possibility until reality has no choice but to follow your footprints. Many people spend their lives remembering pain. They replay old disappointments. They rehearse arguments that never happened. They anticipate worst-case scenarios. Their nervous systems become fluent in fear. And the field reflects that fluency. They confuse familiarity with safety. They say, "I'm just realistic." But what they truly mean is, "I am loyal to my old suffering." Future memory breaks that loyalty. It asks you gently to become faithful to a life that feels unfamiliar but desirable. It invites you to close your eyes and feel the warmth of a home you haven't bought, the ease of relationships you haven't met, the relief of financial breathing room you haven't yet experienced, not as a cartoon fantasy, but as a nervous system reality. The weight of your body in the chair, the texture of your future clothes, the tone of your future voice. When you imagine the future clearly enough, a quiet shift happens. You begin to make choices that align with that timeline. You speak differently. You move differently. You say no more firmly. You welcome opportunities you once thought were too large. You become someone your past can't recognize. And that's how you know you're changing. People misunderstand manifestation because they imagine the universe handing them gifts. But the universe doesn't give you the life you want. It reflects the life you are rehearsing. Future memory is rehearsal. Picture this. A musician practices a new song until their fingers move without thinking. Muscle memory takes over. Similarly, When you remember your future often enough, identity memory takes over. You simply become the person who belongs in that reality. You show up differently, and the world responds accordingly. But let's talk gently about resistance. When you first try to remember a joyful future, you might feel grief. Grief that you've never felt that way before. Grief that you were never taught it was possible. Don't run from that grief. It is the final echo of your past self releasing its claim. You may also feel fear, not fear of failure, fear of expansion. There is a particular terror that arises when the soul senses its own potential. It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. Wind, tugging at your clothes. Part of you wonders if you will fall. The wiser part knows you will fly. Future memory teaches the nervous system to trust the wind. The practice is simple. Sit quietly, breathe gently into your chest, and ask yourself, what does my future feel like? Not what it looks like, but how it feels from the inside. Is your breath deeper? Is your spine straighter? Do your decisions come with less hesitation? That feeling is the compass. Hold it softly, like a candle in cupped hands. Then let your imagination build a scene. Details matter. The brain needs texture. The smell of coffee in your future kitchen. The weight of keys to your future home. The softness in the eyes of someone who loves you. The signature on a document that changes everything. You don't have to know how it happens. You only need to visit it enough times that neurons begin stitching new possibilities into the fabric of your identity. And here's where the magic becomes science. When you revisit that future again and again, your brain begins pruning away old connections. Connections tied to self-doubt, scarcity, unworthiness. It stops funding the circuitry that once held you hostage. This is neuroplasticity. It is not mystical, it is mechanical poetry. Future memory also disrupts predictive processing, the brain's habit of recycling the past. When you offer the brain a new memory, it finally has something else to predict. It says, maybe tomorrow isn't yesterday in disguise. And that thought alone is enough to crack open timelines. But you must embody that future in micro moments, the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you choose, not out of performance, but out of remembrance. Because the deepest form of faith is acting as if what you want is already true. You will know this practice is working when you stop negotiating with yourself, when you stop contorting to fit old rooms, when people from your past say, "You've changed," and you smile softly, because they are right. And here is a truth very few talk about sometimes. The future you are remembering requires the loss of things you currently hold dear. Not because they are bad, but because they fit the old version of you. As you remember forward, the universe lovingly edits your life. Jobs dissolve, relationships drift, habits fall away. It feels like death, but it is metamorphosis. The caterpillar mourns the branches it once crawled upon. The butterfly cannot return. Future memory is also an anchor. When doubt surfaces, instead of spiraling, you return to the vision. You breathe into it. And slowly, the nervous system learns, we are safe here. Once safety is embodied, synchronicity accelerates. Life begins to respond faster, as if relieved that you finally stopped contradicting yourself. The universe crowns certainty, and certainty isn't arrogance, it's quiet recognition. If you struggle at first, begin with small memories. Remember how your future self drinks water unhurried, grateful. Remember how they wake rested, without bracing. Remember how they answer messages without anxiety. These small details are the hinges upon which large realities turn. One day, after months of remembering forward, you will feel something settle inside you. Not excitement, stability. You'll realize your future no longer feels distant. It feels inevitable. That is the moment the field collapses around your identity. Reality becomes pliable. Life bends. And when you finally step into the physical version of what you once imagined, you'll feel déjà vu. Not because you've been there before geographically, but because you've visited emotionally. Your body recognizes it. Your cells whisper, "We've been waiting for this." That whisper is the completion of the loop. So continue to remember, not as fantasy, but as preparation. The version of you who lives that reality already exists in the quantum field. Each time you breathe like them, think like them, feel like them, you dissolve the distance between you, and one morning, you will awaken in the life you used to imagine. Not because you chased it, but because you remembered who you were becoming. 8. The reflective mirror. Reality isn't against you. It's echoing you. There's a moment in every life when we look around and whisper something quietly painful. Why does life keep doing this to me? We say it when relationships repeat the same patterns, when opportunities slip away, just as hope rises, when the world seems to hand out blessings unevenly. In that whisper is the subtle belief that reality is adversarial, that something out there is resisting us. But reality isn't against you. Reality is reflecting you. This isn't blame. This isn't shame. It's mechanics. The quantum field responds to the frequency you broadcast at the deepest layer of your being. Not the words you speak, not the mask you wear, but the vibration of your nervous system, the quiet posture of your heart. Reality is the mirror that stands in front of you every day, not to judge you, but to reveal you. Think of a literal mirror. If you frown, the mirror frowns. If you smile, it smiles. You would never argue with it. You wouldn't shout at the reflection to change while keeping your face the same by-elf. Yet we do this psychologically all the time. We demand kinder reflections while holding on to harsher states. We want gentler outcomes while carrying sharp insecurities. We expect deep intimacy while guarding a closed heart. The mirror can only copy. When life reflects abandonment, perhaps your nervous system expects departure. When it reflects scarcity, perhaps your cells are rehearsing fear. When it reflects chaos, perhaps your inner world is unsettled. These reflections aren't punishments, they're invitations. Life is saying, look here, look gently, look deeper. If you've ever stood in the sunlight holding a polished metal plate, you know it doesn't distort the sun. It simply shines it back. Reality does the same. It shines back the state you are inhabiting. If you are tense, it feels tense. If you are at ease, it softens. The external rearranges itself to harmonize with the internal. This is why two people can walk into the same room and have completely different experiences. One is greeted warmly, the other coldly. One sees opportunity, the other threat. The room is the same. The mirror, however, reflects two internal stories. Most people were taught to fix the mirror. They polish the outside nice clothes, perfect words, curated image. But polishing the mirror doesn't change the face reflected within it. You must soften your expression if you want the reflection to soften. The reflective mirror is easiest to see in relationships. Notice how someone treats you when you doubt yourself, they pull back. Notice how they respond when you're grounded, they soften. Confidence makes others perceive you as capable. Fear makes others perceive you as fragile. Not because anyone consciously decides this, but because nervous systems co-regulate instinctively. Imagine approaching the mirror in your bathroom with a scowl and expecting it to grin. The absurdity becomes obvious. Yet emotionally, we do this every day. We demand external peace while cultivating internal conflict. We plead for love while withholding it from ourselves. We pray for abundance while hoarding our generosity. The mirror listens to what you are, not what you want. Here's a subtle example. Someone trying desperately to attract love from a state of neediness will often repel it. Not because they're unworthy, but because the frequency of need signals lack, and lack cannot magnetize fulfillment. Meanwhile, someone who is comfortable alone, who fills their own cup, becomes magnetic without trying. Their independence whispers safety. Safety is the most attractive frequency on Earth. Or consider money. You can chase it with anxiety. Count every penny. Cling tightly. And watch it slip through your fingers. Or you can treat money as energy. Appreciate it. Circulate it wisely. Breathe around it and watch its flow become steadier. Scarcity hoards. Abundance relax. The mirror responds accordingly. Sometimes, people become angry when confronted with this concept. Are you saying everything painful was my fault? No. Reality is complex. There are losses no one deserves. Traumas that arrive uninvited. Suffering that simply happens. But while pain may not be our fault, healing becomes our responsibility. A mirror doesn't blame you. It informs you. It reveals where old wounds still dictate behavior, where fear still whispers beneath breath, where identity still clings to outdated shapes. And the moment you see the pattern clearly, the pattern begins to dissolve. Awareness is the first stroke of transformation. When you realize you are the source of the broadcast, the universe stops feeling random and starts feeling responsive. Suddenly, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a participant in creation. To work with the reflective mirror, you must cultivate radical honesty. Notice how you feel when good things approach. Do you tense? Do you brace? Do you deflect compliments? Do you prepare excuses? The mirror will show you through the people and opportunities you encounter. If you avoid good things will avoid you. The mirror's purpose is evolution. When you hold resentment, people around you become irritable. When you carry guilt, life hands you punishments you subconsciously believe you deserve. When you radiate gratitude, small blessings multiply like seeds blown by the wind. You cannot hide from the mirror, but you can learn to love what it shows you. There's a gentle exercise you can try. Sit still, place your hand over your heart. Ask softly, what is my life reflecting back to me right now? Not the storyline, not the drama, the theme. Scarcity, distrust, shame, people-pleasing, fear of abandonment. Whatever the mirror reveals, meet it with compassion. It is simply showing you the state you've forgotten you're broadcasting. When you begin shifting your internal state, the external world may lag for a bit. Think of a large ship changing direction. Its momentum takes time to turn, but turn it does. Slowly at first, then undeniably. People treat you differently. Opportunities feel more aligned. Serendipity becomes common. Your reality doesn't change because you begged it to. It changes because you stopped contradicting yourself. Eventually, you'll reach a point where you no longer fear the mirror. You'll welcome its reflections like guidance from a trusted teacher. When discomfort appears, you'll ask, what is this showing me about my inner state? That question alone can unravel years of confusion. The reflective mirror doesn't want you perfect. It wants you aware. Awareness leads to choice. Choice leads to frequency. Frequency leads to timeline. Let the mirror help you evolve. When you see lack, cultivate sufficiency. When you see judgment, practice acceptance. When you see distance, soften into vulnerability. When you see fear, breathe safety into the body. These shifts are subtle, but subtle is where quantum work happens. Life is not something happening to you. Life is something happening through you. And when you understand that, the mirror becomes beautiful. It becomes a compass, a shimmering doorway showing you where your energy stands today. Not to shame you, but to invite you into a more coherent version of yourself. One day, you'll walk into a room and notice how people relax around you, how conversations deepen effortlessly, how opportunities seem to find you, and you'll realize the mirror has finally caught up, not because the world changed, but because you did. Your reflection became your truth, and reality, ever faithful, bowed gently in agreement. 9. The safe nervous system. Creation cannot bloom in a body that is bracing. There's a truth that hides beneath almost every struggle to manifest. Your body must feel safe before your dreams can land. It doesn't matter how many affirmations you speak, how clearly you visualize, or how deeply you desire. If your nervous system is living in survival, creation becomes impossible. A body convinced it's in danger will sacrifice expansion to protect you. You've felt this before. On days when your chest tightens and your breath shortens, you can't think big thoughts. Your world shrinks to the size of your fear. You can't imagine abundance when your body is preparing for famine. You can't attract love when your heart is bracing for abandonment. You can't feel worthy when every cell is whispering, something is wrong. Survival and manifestation cannot occupy the same room. One requires contraction, the other, openness. But no one ever told us this. We were taught to push harder, think harder, try harder, and when nothing changed, we blamed ourselves. We never thought to look at the body quiet, trembling beneath the weight of vigilance. The nervous system is ancient. It remembers the threats your conscious mind has forgotten. It learned to tighten at a raised voice, to freeze at disappointment, to shrink at rejection. It recorded the emotional climate of your household before you had language. It learned the cost of standing out. It learned the consequences of vulnerability. And now, as an adult, you are trying to create from a nervous system built for defense. This is not failure. It's misalignment. Imagine trying to paint a masterpiece while someone is pointing a knife at you. The creative centers of the brain shut down. Blood leaves the thinking brain and rushes into the limbs, preparing to fight, flee, or freeze. You can't dream bigger when your biology is trying not to die. The body must feel safe to imagine. It must feel safe to desire. It must feel safe to receive. Most people attempt to manifest from a place of urgency. They grip at outcomes, like someone drowning grips at air. But urgency is not clarity. It's panic dressed in spiritual language. When the nervous system is regulated, your breath deepens, your muscles soften, your thoughts widen. You begin to see possibilities instead of threats. You become creative instead of reactive. The brain reopens neural networks responsible for problem-solving, intuition, or play, innovation. Your vision expands. Options bloom. It's not that manifestation becomes easier. It's that you finally stop getting in your own way. Look at any moment of true inspiration in your life. It arrived when you were calm walking, showering, sitting quietly. The nervous system was relaxed enough to let new information pass through. That's not coincidence. That's biology and quantum law dancing together. The nervous system state determines the frequency you broadcast. From survival, you broadcast lack. There isn't enough. I must hurry. Something might go wrong. From safety, you broadcast sufficiency. There is time. I can choose. Life is workable. The quantum responds to sufficiency, like fertile soil responds to rain. This is why someone grounded can manifest quickly, while someone anxious spends years spinning. Not because one is better, but because one's body is available to receive, the other's body is preparing to run. Think of a seed in winter soil. You can pray over it every day. But if the ground is frozen, nothing will sprout. Safety is the spring thaw. Without it, manifestation remains. Concept rather than fruit. Safety doesn't mean everything in your life is perfect. It means your body believes it can handle imperfection. So how do we cultivate this safety? First, we must acknowledge the nervous system with tenderness. It learned to protect us. The hypervigilance, the tension, the guardedness, these were not dysfunctions. They were strategies. They kept us alive in rooms that were too loud, too unpredictably, too unloving. The body became a soldier when no one else defended us. To regulate the nervous system, we must thank it. We must teach it gently. The war is over. This teaching doesn't happen through thought alone. It happens through presence. When you place a hand on your chest and breathe slowly, the heart tells the brain, "We are safe." When you move gently, instead of rushing, your body hears, "We are not in danger." When you sit in silence, without distracting yourself, the nervous system learns, stillness does not hurt anymore. These small acts rewrite chemical patterns. They reshape neural pathways. They melt armor. And slowly, a new baseline emerges. When the baseline shifts, you will notice subtle changes. You pause before reacting. You stop scanning rooms for threat. You let compliments linger. You trust the good without rehearsing the bad. You stop bargaining with the universe. You rest. That rest is not laziness. It is readiness. In that readiness, ideas find you. Opportunities see you. People feel you differently. Your presence becomes soothing, not chaotic. This is not spiritual luck. It is nervous system coherence. But let's be honest. Some of you have lived with tension so long that safety feels unfamiliar. When peace arrives, you wait for the other shoe to drop. You equate calm with vulnerability. This is common. When the nervous system is used to chaos, calmness feels like danger because the body cannot predict it. It takes time to unlearn adrenaline as identity. Healing at this level is slow. It happens in micro moments. Each time you choose a gentle response over a frantic one, a new neural path strengthens. Each time you breathe into fear instead of shrinking away, the body learns. Life is no longer coded as threat. It is coded as possibility. And with possibility, manifestation finally has space to bloom. Your desires are not outside you, waiting to be fetched. They are hovering in a field of probability, waiting for permission to land. Not intellectual permission, physiological permission. Think of a butterfly landing on a hand. It will never land on a shaking one. Not because it hates you, but because the shaking hand signals danger. Your dreams are butterflies. The nervous system is the hand to receive big dreams. You need steady palms. As the nervous system heals, something else happens. Self-worth rises. The body no longer anticipates betrayal. It no longer braces for loss. It recognizes itself as deserving, and the universe mirrors this recognition. You stop chasing. Everything begins approaching. That is the quiet power of safety. It's not visible from the outside. It's not glamorous. It's not dramatic. But it changes the entire trajectory of a life. So if manifestation feels slow, ask yourself gently, not critically, does my body feel safe to have what I'm asking for? If the answer is no, do not force. Sit with yourself. Breathe. Learn your own edges. Teach your own nervous system that expansion doesn't require collapse. In the end, the universe isn't withholding anything. It is waiting for a body that can hold joy without trembling. Success without self-sabotage. Love without panic. You are not behind. You are becoming safe. And when safety settles into your bones, the reality will rearrange itself not because you begged it to, but because you finally offered it a steady place to land. 10. Daily energetic hygiene. The gentle art of tending your inner atmosphere. There's something most people do every morning without questioning it. They brush their teeth. Not because their teeth are falling out. Not because they've failed. But because maintenance préventive. It preserves health. It keeps things clean before they become problems. But while we tend to our physical hygiene automatically, we often neglect something just as important, our energetic hygiene. Your inner world collects residue. Every glance of disapproval, every piece of bad news, every tense interaction, every small fear your body absorbs throughout the day. These fragments settle into your nervous system like dust settling on a shelf. You might not notice them at first. They're light, harmless, forgettable, but left untouched. They accumulate, they stack, and eventually, they weigh your chest down without you knowing why. Energetic hygiene is the quiet practice of clearing that residue before it becomes your identity. This is not mystical. It is psychological and biological. When you live with unprocessed stress, your nervous system remains inflamed. Your thoughts tighten. Your decisions become reactive instead of intentional. You protect instead of create. You shrink instead of expand. A life without energetic hygiene slowly becomes survival. Think about the feeling of walking into a room filled with tension. You feel it instantly, even without words. That's energy. Or the opposite. Someone walks into a cafe, calm and open, and suddenly you breathe deeper without thinking. That's energy too. We often underestimate how porous we are. We absorb emotional atmospheres. We carry invisible burdens that never belong to us. We take home the anxiety of others, the expectations of strangers, the bitterness of environments we didn't choose. Without hygiene, these influences lodge themselves quietly in the body. Energetic hygiene isn't about avoiding the world. It's about not losing yourself in its noise. The simplest form begins with softening. When you notice your jaw clenching, relax it. When you feel your shoulders rising, release them. When your breath becomes shallow, deepen it. These micro adjustments tell the nervous system, we are safe. Safety dissolves residue effortlessly. But softening also means emotional honesty. Pretending you're fine is like painting over mold. It looks better for a moment, but underneath, decay spreads. When you feel sadness, acknowledge it. When you feel anger, let it speak. Emotions are energy in motion. They move when you feel them. They stagnate when you swallow them. Energetic hygiene can be as simple as sitting quietly at the end of the day and asking your body, what am I holding that isn't mine? Then let the breath carry it out. Long exhales release the stress cycle. Sometimes, hygiene looks like saying no gently but firmly. Boundaries are emotional filters. Without them, you absorb everything. With them, you choose. Boundaries are not walls. They are openings that close when the wind becomes a storm. Another practice, ground yourself in the body. Place both feet on the floor. Feel the weight of your legs. Notice the support beneath you. Anxiety often occurs when your awareness rises into the head and forgets the body entirely. Returning to the lower half of your body reclaims presence. Presence is the strongest soap. When you are deeply present, residue can't stick. It slides off like water on smooth stone. Some people imagine energetic hygiene must involve crystals or rituals. Those may be reminders, but they are not required. Hygiene begins in biology. When you slow your breath, you lower cortisol. When you soften your eyes, you activate relaxation. When you hum softly, you stimulate the vagus nerve. These are not metaphors, they are mechanisms. Every ancient spiritual practice had some form of daily clearing prayer. Breathwork, movement, silence. Not because the soul was dirty, but because the world is loud. Consider how we shower, not because we rolled in mud, but because simply living creates residue. The same is true energetically. Even joy requires hygiene. Excitement can overstimulate. Achievement can inflate the ego without tending. Even positive experiences can distort clarity. Hygiene balances. It grounds. It recalibrates. Think of your energy like a garden. If you never pull weeds, they spread. If you never water the soil, it hardens. If you never prune, growth becomes tangled. Daily attention creates ease later. Neglect creates struggle later. One of the greatest forms of hygiene is stillness. Not scrolling, not distracting, just sitting with yourself long enough to hear the difference between your voice and the world's demands. Stillness is uncomfortable at first because it reveals what you've avoided, but revelation is the first step of release. Another form is intentional joy. Not pleasure-seeking, but noticing something beautiful and letting yourself feel it fully. The warmth of sunlight, the taste of fruit, the sound of distant laughter. These moments wash the nervous system with serotonin and oxytocin, the chemicals of trust. Trust dissolves fear, residue faster than force ever could. There's also the hygiene of movement. Energy stagnates in stillness. Stretch slowly, walk mindfully. Shake out the tension held in your spine. Dance without performance. Movement doesn't just warm muscles, it circulates emotions. Sometimes hygiene requires solitude. The nervous system cannot digest experience while constantly interacting. Alone time is digestion. Without it, emotions remain undigested, and you feel heavy without knowing why. Likewise, rest is hygiene. Exhaustion reduces emotional immunity. When tired, the smallest stressors feel like threats. Sleep is the nightly reset that clears the brain's metabolic waste. Without it, anxiety grows. But perhaps the most overlooked form of hygiene is laughter. Laughter loosens the grip of fear. It breaks psychological rigidity. It says to the nervous system, we are not in danger. Even a smile softens the brainstem. A deeper layer of hygiene involves forgiveness, not absolution for others, but liberation for yourself. Resentment is emotional plaque. It hardens over time, preventing tenderness. Forgiveness softens the internal architecture and frees space for new timelines. Just as important is mental decluttering. Repetitive, obsessive thoughts form grooves. Every time you gently interrupt them with breath or perspective, you smooth the groove. Over time, the brain rewires. This is neuroplasticity, not mystical, but deeply miraculous. Energetic hygiene also means choosing the media you consume. Information is vibration. The nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one on a screen. Curate what you allow into your mind, not out of fear, but out of stewardship. Life will always deposit residue. That's not failure, that's participation. Hygiene simply prevents residue from becoming identity. And here's what no one tells you when hygiene becomes daily. Manifestation accelerators. The clearer your field, the clearer your signal. The clearer your signal, the faster reality reflects it. The universe doesn't ignore you. You've just been broadcasting through static. Clarity is magnetic. This daily tending builds a quiet confidence. You stop being thrown by every emotion. You stop drowning in every wave. Instead, if you notice, there is sadness today, and with gentle breath, sadness passes through. You remain the witness, not the storm. Eventually, hygiene becomes joy in itself. It feels like brushing your soul's teeth. Lightness returns. Humor returns. Curiosity returns. Life stops feeling like a series of emergencies and becomes a sequence of invitations. And one day, you'll look back at the dense fog you once carried and realize it was never the world that was too heavy. It was simply energy that needed clearing. Tend to your inner atmosphere like a gardener tends to morning dew, not with urgency, but with devotion. Not because you are broken, but because you are alive. And aliveness requires care. Quiet, consistent care. That consistency will become your freedom. That freedom will become your clarity. And that clarity will become the frequency that reshapes your reality. 11. The myth of forced positivity. Manifestation requires truth, not performance. There's a misunderstanding that quietly injures so many well-intentioned people on this path. The belief that if you are not endlessly positive, the universe will punish you. That if sadness creeps into your chest, if fear trembles in your voice, if doubt flickers across your skin, then somehow you've broken the delicate machinery of manifestation. So you plaster a smile on top of a wound. You whisper affirmations through clenched teeth. You call yourself grateful while you shake inside. But positivity, when forced, is simply another form of fear. A genuinely regulated nervous system does not need to shout joy to drown out its trembling. It simply breathes. The truth is, manifestation does not require you to deny your humanity. It requires you to meet it honestly. If you cannot look at your pain, you cannot alchemize it. If you reject your darkness, it moves into your shadow and begins shaping your decisions without permission. The universe does not respond to performance. It responds to coherence. When your inner state and outward expression disagree, that disagreement becomes static. Think of two instruments slightly out of tune. No matter how loudly they play, the music never quite lands. Your vibration is the same. If you say, "I am joyful, I am abundant," but your body curls inward at the thought of receiving, the field hears the curl, not the words. You are not meant to be relentlessly positive. You are meant to be whole. Wholeness includes sadness. It includes moments where you doubt your path, mornings where you feel heavy, evenings where loneliness knocks at your bones. These emotions are not evidence you have failed. They are evidence you are alive. A heart that can feel deeply is a heart capable of creation. The danger of forced positivity is subtle. When you deny how you truly feel, you abandon yourself. In the moment you need your own presence most, you create an internal orphan, the part of you that aches. That orphan doesn't disappear just because you speak louder. It waits, it watches, and eventually, it becomes resentment. Real manifestation asks, can I sit with myself without running? Can I hold my own fear without pretending? Can I breathe into discomfort without cutting myself off? When you allow your emotions to move through you honestly, they complete their cycle. They rise, crest, fall, and dissolve like waves kissing the shore. When you resist them, they stagnate, they turn into stories, and those stories become identity. The universe listens to identity. So allow the sadness, allow the anger, allow the uncertainty, feel them fully, but don't pitch a tent inside them. Emotions are meant to be visitors, not landlords. Returning to balance doesn't mean you never wobble. It means you know how to return. Imagine a tightrope walker. They don't stay perfectly still. Their body sways, adjusts, responds. Balance is dynamic, not rigid. The nervous system is the same, always shifting, always recalibrating. Shame only freezes the process. Balancing begins with honesty. Whisper to yourself, "I am afraid right now," and something unclenches. The honesty is not weakness, it's regulation. Emotions metabolize when they are witnessed. They calcify when they are suppressed. The world has sold us toxic positivity like a glittering bandage, but healing is not about smothering symptoms. It is about listening to what they are trying to say. Often, fear is simply a younger version of you asking, "Are we safe? Are we allowed to grow?" When you answer gently, the fear settles, not because you dominated it, but because you accompanied it. There is a tenderness required on this path that most people overlook. The more gently you treat your inner storms, the more quickly they pass. Force makes them violent. Compassion makes them water. Returning to balance means recognizing when you have drifted. It means catching yourself before spirals form. It means placing a hand on your chest and breathing deep enough to feel your pulse slow. It means pausing instead of reacting. This is not dramatic work. It's quiet work. Slow work. The kind done in kitchens at midnight. Whispering reassurance to the wounded child inside. Manifestation is not about blind optimism. It's about nervous system safety. If you try to shout positive thoughts over a scared body, the body will win. Emotions have hierarchy in the field. The nervous system broadcasts louder than the mind. That's why you can intellectually know you're safe, while your stomach twists. Until the body feels safe, the field responds to fear. So how do you return to balance first? By naming how you feel. Language organizes chaos. Describing an emotion shifts it from limbic reaction to cognitive awareness. It moves from fire to flame. Second, by breathing deeply, slow exhales activate the vagus nerve. They signal safety to the heart, which then signals safety to the brain. Third, by grounding in the body, wiggle your toes, press your feet into the floor, feel your spine. When you inhabit your body, you exit the tornado of thought. Fourth, by self-relationship, speak to yourself as you would to someone you love. Finally, by remembering you are not your emotions. You are the sky they move through. People often believe manifestation requires perfection. It does not. It requires consistency. It requires willingness. It requires return. If you spent the day panicked, but took 3 minutes to breathe yourself back into your chest before sleep, you are doing the work. Perfection fractures the nervous system. Permission heals it. When you stop punishing your humanity, you stop broadcasting shame. When you stop performing happiness, you stop broadcasting fear of being seen. When you stop running from your emotional weather, the weather clears faster. Your power doesn't come from pretending you're always radiant. Your power comes from believing you are worthy, even in the dark. In fact, some of the strongest manifestations arrive not from joy, but from surrender, a quiet exhale in the middle of a storm, a whispered, "I trust myself to return." Balance is not the absence of heavy days. It is the muscle of returning to center when you drift. And each return strengthens your field. Each return teaches your nervous system that fear does not mean danger. Each return deepens your coherence. One day, you'll laugh softly at the idea that you ever needed to pretend. You will realize honesty did more for your vibration than positivity ever did. You will feel emotions as weather moving, shifting, passing, not as identity. And you'll wake with a lightness that doesn't depend on anything external. That lightness is not what you earn by controlling your feelings. It's what rises naturally when you love them enough to let them go. So be gentle with yourself. Let the waves come. Let them go. Return to your breath. Return to your chest. Return to the quiet truth humming beneath everything. You do not manifest what you perform. You manifest what you consistently become. And becoming is never linear. It's spiraled, human, beautiful. That is not failure. That is the work. 12. Unconscious delay. When worthiness decides the timeline. There's a bewildering experience many people quietly wrestle with. They decide what they want. They do the inner work. They visualize. They hope, and yet nothing arrives. Not because life is cruel, not because the universe is ignoring them, but because deep underneath their conscious desire sits a quieter belief, like a weight tied around the ankle of their becoming. I don't deserve this yet. The unconscious does not lie. And the quantum field responds to the unconscious more faithfully than to anything you consciously declare. We often imagine delay as punishment, but more truthfully, delay is protection. A kind of cosmic pause button pressed on your behalf. Because receiving something you believe you are unworthy of is not abundance, it's agony. It triggers panic. It inflames self-sabotage. People push away the very thing they prayed for because the nervous system cannot hold what the identity rejects. Imagine handing a fragile vase to someone who believes they break everything they touch. They will tremble. Their breath will tighten. Their hands will clench. They might even drop the vase, not because they wanted to, but because fear hijacked their body. The universe knows this. It waits, not to punish, but to protect. Unconscious delay is not life saying no. It is life saying, let's strengthen your hands first. Worthiness is not a thought. It is a nervous system state. You cannot chant yourself worthy while your cells contract in disbelief. And so, when the unconscious whispers uncertainty, the field listens and pauses, like a wise friend, holding your gift for safekeeping until you are ready to treasure it. We inherit worthiness. wounds quietly, from caretakers who could not love themselves, from environments that rewarded achievement instead of existence, from subtle shames buried in childhood moments we barely remember. No one hands you a certificate that says, "Your needs matter." You learn or you don't, through the gentle or violent language of those around you. And so, many people grow into adults with an invisible rulebook. I must earn affection. I must be perfect to be chosen. Success requires sacrifice. Happiness must be justified. Timelines stall because receiving would contradict these rules. And contradiction threatens the ego's identity. The ego would rather suffer what it knows than risk the unknown architecture of joy. Here's something rarely said out loud. Sometimes you don't receive because your internal world hasn't grown the muscle to hold what you are asking for. Not intellectually, emotionally. A small container shatters under too much pressure. Growth is often delayed to enlarge the container, and worthiness is the container. You can see unconscious delay in subtle behaviors. You procrastinate on opportunities that would elevate you. You attract people who confirm your fears. You apologize for existing. You shrink when someone praises you. You wait for permission that never comes. None of this is conscious sabotage. It is nervous system logic. If I don't believe I'm safe with goodness, I will unconsciously avoid it. The quantum field acts like a mirror, and mirrors do not lie. If you feel unworthy, the reflection pauses, not out of cruelty, but coherence. Most people try to fix the delay by doing more affirmations, more hustle, more rituals, more effort. But worthiness cannot be forced. It must be felt. You cannot outwork a wound. You must meet it. So ask yourself gently, what do I fear will happen if I receive this? What identity must die in order for this new reality to live? What part of me believes I must suffer to be valid? You may be surprised by the answer's soft, trembling truths beneath armor. Sometimes the delay is not about unworthiness. Sometimes it's about safety. Receiving love, when you've learned love abandons. You can feel like standing on a cliff's edge. Receiving money when you've been taught it corrupts can feel like betrayal. Receiving peace when you're addicted to adrenaline can feel lonely. The unconscious would rather wait than overwhelm you. One of the kindest things the universe ever does is wait until your nervous system can celebrate without collapsing. Until success doesn't trigger self-doubt. Until intimacy doesn't awaken panic. Until happiness doesn't ignite guilt. This waiting is grace. And the work of dissolving unconscious delay begins with one radical act, believing you are allowed to experience goodness without justification. Worthiness is not earned through suffering. It is remembered through presence. To dissolve delay, you must teach the body that joy is safe. You do this through micro-experiences, letting yourself enjoy small victories, receiving compliments without deflection, resting without apology, spending a little money on comfort without spiraling, speaking kindly to yourself when you fail. Each act is a brick in the new foundation. Eventually, the unconscious learns. Goodness does not destroy me, and the universe listens. Another layer to this truth. Sometimes the delay is because what you asked for requires you to become someone who can hold it without collapse. For example, you may desire deeper love, but deeper intimacy demand boundary, communication, vulnerability. The universe waits while you build those muscles. Otherwise, the gift becomes a trigger. Or you desire wealth, but wealth magnifies what you already are. Without internal stability, it becomes fire in dry grass. The universe delays until the soil is wet enough not to burn. Delay is not distance, it is preparation. There's a softness that settles in when you realize this. You stop begging. You stop bargaining. You stop. Assuming silence means rejection. Instead, you begin to tend gently to your nervous system. You cultivate self-trust. You heal your emotional architecture. And one subtle morning, without fireworks, You notice you are no longer panicking at the thought of joy. You breathe deeper. You receive compliments without tension. You imagine a future without trembling. That moment is the unlocking, because in that moment, the unconscious finally agrees with the conscious. Agreement collapses the wave into form, and then reality arrives. Not dramatically, but naturally, like fruit ripening because the season is finally right. You meet someone who sees you. An opportunity lands softly in your lap. Your creative ideas weave into income, not because you forced reality, but because you became congruent. So, if life is quiet right now, trust the quiet. If things are taking longer than you hoped, trust the pacing. If you feel like you're waiting, trust that something is waiting with you. Worthiness is learned slowly, like dawn, creeping across a dark horizon. And remember this, with tenderness, the universe will never give you something that requires you to abandon yourself to keep it. Delay is not desertion. Delay is devotion. Life is saying, we want you to be able to hold this without breaking. And when you can, when your nervous system sighs, instead of shakes, the doors will open effortlessly, not because you earned it, but because you finally believed you were allowed to walk through. 13. The quantum field responds to your state of being. Vibration speaks louder than words. There's something we're rarely told, something that sits quietly beneath every spiritual tradition and every discovery in quantum science. The universe is not listening to your sentences. It's listening to your state. You can speak endlessly about abundance. Whisper affirmations under moonlight. Read every book on manifestation. But if your body is shaking with the vibration of lack, the echo that returns to you will match the tremble, not the script. Words are surface waves. State is the ocean beneath. We live in a culture that worships language, what you say, how you speak, what you declare. But in the deeper architecture of reality, words are costumes. Vibration is skin. You cannot trick the universe with vocabulary. The quantum listens to the heartbeat, the breath, the nervous system, the micro movements of your posture. It listens to what you believe when you stop speaking. And here's the simplest truth of all. You are not manifesting from what you want. You are manifesting from what you are. To understand this, picture someone saying, "I am wealthy," while their chest tightens at the thought of a bill. Their voice may sound confident, but their body is still rehearsing scarcity. The vibration of fear travels farther than the sentence of abundance. The field reflects that vibration faithfully, not to harm them, but to reveal where healing is needed. In this way, the universe becomes a mirror, not a vending machine. To shift reality, you don't force a new story. You become someone who no longer trembles in the old one. Think of two radios tuned to different stations. You can shout into one all you want, but unless you tune the frequency, the music remains static. The quantum field is the same. It delivers the broadcast you are tuned to, not the one you request politely. This is why someone who quietly knows they are worthy will receive more than someone loudly begging. Worthiness radiates, begging contracts. The universe responds to the expansion. We often mistake desire for vibration. Désir says, "I want more." But hidden inside many desires is the whisper, "I do not have." And the quantum responds to the whisper, not the words. So the work is not to speak more loudly, it's to soften more deeply. To soften into trust. To soften into belonging. To soften into enoughness. Because when the body relaxes, the vibration shifts. Breath becomes the tuning fork. Safety becomes the signal. And life reorganizes around the one who no longer braces. The state you broadcast is built from your nervous system, your beliefs, and your emotional atmosphere. If those are misaligned, manifestation becomes friction. But when those align, manifestation becomes gravity. Things fall toward you instead of away. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract effortlessly? It's not luck. Their vibration is relaxed. They expect good. Expectation, not entitlement. But quiet confidence is a magnetic force. Expectation says good things are normal. Love stays. Money circulates. Support exists. That expectation isn't spoken, it's embodied. The shoulders soften. The jaw unclenches. Breath enters the belly. The nervous system stops scanning for departure or disaster. That state, the physiological signature of safety, is what the quantum responds to. Now think of the opposite. When you feel unworthy, the body contracts. Shoulders hunch. Eyes lower. Breath becomes shallow. That contraction broadcasts fear like a signal flare. And fear attracts mirrors of fear. Not to punish, but to show you where you have abandoned yourself. The field does not understand English, Spanish, Vietnamese, or any human language. It understands contraction and expansion. Expansion says you are ready. Contraction says you are not. So ask yourself, when you think of receiving what you desire, what does your body do? Does it soften or does it clench? That reaction is the real affirmation. And the universe honors honesty. This is why countless people manifest better outcomes when they stop trying. Trying is often rooted in fear. Allowing is rooted in coherence. Trying says, I must force reality. Allowing says, reality is ready when I am. And when you shift into being, the field shifts with you. Being is not performance. Being is the quiet hum of identity. You don't tell people you're confident. You simply are. You don't announce you're worthy. You move as if worthiness is your birthright. When you embody abundance, you stop chasing scarcity. You stop gripping outcomes. You stop negotiating for crumbs. Your energy becomes calm. Calmness is the frequency of someone who trusts, and trust magnetizes. Think of every creature in nature. A bird does not fear scarcity of air. A tree does not doubt if sunlight will come. Their receiving is physiological, not intellectual. Humans, however, learn to brace, to expect loss, to fear collapse. But nothing new can enter a clenched fist. Softness is the open palm. So how do we change our state? Not by chanting louder, not by pretending harder, not by suppressing fear. We change state by regulating the body. Slow, intentional breaths, relaxed muscles, honest emotional expression, gentle self-talk, environments that feel safe. Safety is not luxury. It's the foundation of coherence. When you are safe, you choose differently. You perceive opportunities that panic cannot see. You speak boundaries that fear cannot imagine. You hold rest without guilt. And slowly, your vibration shifts from scarcity to sufficiency. You begin to think thoughts that abundant people think, not because you force them, but because you finally feel like someone allowed to have them. Your identity catches up with your desire. That is the moment manifestation becomes inevitable. Because manifestation is not about asking, it's about becoming the person who no longer doubts they can hold what they ask for. When you reach that place, words are barely needed. Your presence speaks, your state hums, your vibration broadcasts. The quantum listens, and life bends toward you like plants toward the sun. So the next time you say, I am wealthy, pause. Do your cells agree? Do your shoulders loosen or tighten? Does your breath deepen or vanish? The universe does not judge you for the answer. It simply reflects it. Your vibration is not a punishment. It's feedback, a compass, an invitation. So listen gently, tend softly. Let your body become the instrument of your becoming. When who you are aligns with what you ask for, words become unnecessary. Reality arrives quietly, effortlessly like dawn, not because you spoke it into existence, but because you finally vibrated as if it was already yours. When you finally stop arguing with reality, there will come a morning, quieter than most, When you wake and realize something has shifted inside you, not loudly, not suddenly, but like the slow melt of winter, you'll feel it in the way your shoulders no longer tense before the day begins, in the way your breath unfolds gently into the room, and when that morning arrives, you will look back at all the years you spent tightening your grip on life and smile softly, knowingly, because you will see that reality was never pushing against you. It was waiting for you, waiting for your nervous system to steady, waiting for your heart to soften, waiting for the moment when you stopped reaching for life through clenched fists and opened your palms to receive. Nothing was withheld, nothing was denied. It was simply deferred until your vibration could hold it without shaking. Every desire you've ever felt was not a reminder of lack, but a quiet invitation from a higher version of yourself. Desire is not hunger. Desire is memory. It is your future self whispering. This way, it's easy to forget that we mistake longing for emptiness. But longing is proof that something within you remembers what your conscious mind has not yet lived. When you finally understand this, desire stops feeling like ache and starts feeling like orientation, a compass, not a wound. Begin to ask yourself, each morning, the questions very few dare to sit with. How does the version of me who already has this breathe? How do they move through the world? How do they speak, especially to themselves? What do they no longer entertain? These questions may sound simple, but they are surgical. They cut through performance and reveal identity. Because life does not respond to what you want, it responds to who you are willing to become. Identity is the hinge. Timeline is the door. When you live today as if the proof has already arrived, you broadcast readiness, and readiness is irresistible to the quantum field. It reorganizes matter in response to your coherence, not because you demanded it, but because you matched it. The universe does not reward the person who tries the hardest. Effort is often tangled with fear. Effort says, if I stop pushing, everything will fall apart. But trust whispers, if I stop pushing, everything will fall into place. What the universe rewards, if we can even use such a word, is stability. Stability is the quiet, knowing that you do not need to chase what is already yours. Stability slows the breath, loosens the jaw, softens the spirit. In that softness, life becomes less like a hunt and more like a homecoming. When you are stable in your enoughness, the old timeline built on insecurity and scarcity loses oxygen. It dissolves like smoke in open air, not because you killed it, but because you stopped feeding it. And in that dissolution, something new emerges. Not louder, not brighter, but true. Reality begins to mirror the worthiness you stopped negotiating for. In the end, manifestation isn't about pulling anything toward you. It's about removing everything within you that pushes it away. The field is ready before you are. It's listening to you at the vibration beneath the words, beneath the posture, beneath the personality. It listens to the tremor or the peace in your chest. So keep your heart soft. Not naive, soft. Soft hearts are not weak. They are flexible. They do not crack under pressure. They bend. They stretch. They love without clinging. They release without resentment. That softness keeps your channel open. Keep your breath wide. Breath is the language of the nervous system. When your breath is shallow, life feels threatening. When your breath expands, possibility expands with it. Perhaps this sounds simple, but the oldest truths often are, you are being heard. Your quiet hopes, your secret prayers, the dreams you tuck beneath your ribs, all of it is registered. Not at the level of thought, but at the level of frequency. You don't manifest what you perform. You manifest what you settle into. And when you finally settle into enoughness, when you stop chasing reflections and build the light within the field, responds instantly, not as a reward, as a reflection. Each manifestation simply says, I see who you've become. So breathe deeply, Walk gently, hold yourself without rushing, and trust that the invisible architecture of your life is arranging itself in your favor. Not someday, now, quietly, steadily, inevitably, because you are no longer creating from fear. You are creating from being. And being is the only language the universe has ever truly understood.